tabernacle originally would have fit into this room very nicely. And it was 10 cubits wide, and the cubits, what, 1.5 feet? So some mathematicians help me out. 10 cubits times 1.5 would be how many feet wide? And then you've got 30 feet long, 30 cubits long times 1.5, 45 feet. Pretty small. This room is 60 by 40, so it fits nicely in here. And that is the greatest picture we have of heaven. Well, we have artists who will give you renditions of heaven as they see it, even have a verbal description in part in Revelation. But the real description of what heaven is like, and the sanctuary in heaven, and what's going on there is found in this little model called the sanctuary. It is a shadow, a type representing heaven. It's a little snapshot of what heaven is really like. And so that's why the sanctuary is extremely important, and the study is very important, because you want to get to heaven, you want to know what it's going to look like, look at the tabernacle. So Jesus is the minister, not of this tabernacle here on earth. That was for Levi and Aaron's offspring. But he's the one who ministers in the true tabernacle, which the Lord erected in heaven, not man. Now, beginning in verse 3, he's going to tell us that Jesus has this superior ministry, which is in heaven. It has a superior sacrifice. It has a superior order. And it is the original. It is not a copy. Look at verse 3, please. For every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and sacrifices. Therefore, it is necessary that this one, capital O, also have something to offer. So if Jesus is a high priest and he is a minister, ministering in the sanctuary, he is going to have a sacrifice. Because the priest would bring gifts. That would be the tithes the people brought in, the offerings, the alms. They would bring in 10% of their offerings. And if you look at tithing in the Old Testament, there's a very strong case for the fact that there were 2 tithes every year that were brought by the people. 10% of your income gross brought into the Levites. The Levites then took 10% of that and gave it to the Aaronic priesthood. Could be animals, could be grain, could be wine, could be money. And then there's another tithe that would come in every year called the festival tithe, brought in at one of the main festivals of Passover or Pentecost or Tabernacles. There was a third tithe that was given every 3 years. And that was a tithe that went to the local priests and those poor at the local city gates, not brought down to Jerusalem. So 2 tithes every year, that's 10% plus 10% is how much? Sunday morning, we've got to think about this here. 10 plus 10 is close to 20, right? Now you got another 10% every 3 years. Divide that by 3. You've got every year you're bringing in 23.33%. Plus you're bringing in offerings. Plus you're bringing in alms for the poor. So next time you're thinking, gee, I have to give God 10%. Well, in the Old Testament, he wanted 23.33%. And anyway, you're bringing your gifts in, but you're also bringing your sacrifices. Aaron had to have a sacrifice for his sins. And every person in the camp who sinned had to bring a sacrifice. You had to lay your hands on the head of that animal, that bull, that goat, that ram, and you had to transfer symbolically your sins to that animal, and then you had to cut its throat and cause it to die. And hopefully think twice before you sin again. That was rough. There's Jerry Lynn bringing a bull the 4th time this week. What in the world is he up to? I want to start selling that guy some animals. I'll make some good money. And that provision for those animals being killed did not remove sin, but simply covered sin or satisfied God until later on Jesus Christ would come and become the ultimate sacrifice and shed his blood. And interestingly, in the Old Testament, that provision of animal sacrifice was for sins committed unknowingly, unintentionally. I did not know that that was a sin. I am sorry. Here is my animal. Here is the sacrifice. What did they do in the Old Testament for sins committed knowingly? I know it's wrong and I did it anyway. What was the sacrifice then? You became the sacrifice. The penalty was death. Think about the sins that we commit. And let's be honest, unless you've been a Christian for less than a day, can we not say that most of the sins that we commit, we know at the time of committing them that they're wrong? No work is to be done on the Sabbath in the Old Testament. A man is gathering sticks to make fire for food. And he's caught gathering sticks for a fire for food. He knows better. It is working. And so what does Moses, as he goes to God, find as God's punishment? Put him to death. Wow. Aren't you glad for grace? Aren't you glad for Jesus? Well, that Old Testament priest would have to offer gifts and sacrifices. Jesus in heaven offers us all sorts of gifts. Our health, our bodies, all the money that we have to give to him in tithes and offerings and use for other purposes. But as far as the sacrifice, what does he offer for a sacrifice? He offers himself. And what blood is shed in that heavenly sacrifice, in that heavenly sanctuary? His blood is shed. Verse 3, therefore it is necessary that this one also have something to offer. Aaron and all of his successors had these animals to offer. Jesus offered himself. Verse 4, he not only has a superior sacrifice, he has a superior order. We saw that last week, the order of Melchizedek. For if he were on earth, referring to Jesus, he would not be a priest. Why wouldn't he be a priest? You had to be of the house of Levi, and even that didn't qualify you. You had to be of the house of Aaron. What tribe did Jesus come from? Tribe of Judah, the tribe of the kings, not the tribe of the priests. That's why he had to be of a different order and a better order, the order of Melchizedek. And he says in verse 4, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the law. We believe this book of Hebrews was written before 70 AD because it talks about the temple in Jerusalem as still existing. And this comment here indicates that there are men right there in Jerusalem who are offering sacrifices, meaning the tribe of Levi, the house of Aaron, still offering gifts and sacrifices to this day. It wasn't until 70 AD that the temple was destroyed and the city was burned down after a revolt against Rome. So the temple is still open at this point, so we know this book is written probably somewhere in the 65 AD range. So verse 4 tells us that Jesus is in heaven with a superior order, and he's also functioning in a sanctuary which is superior to the tabernacle here on earth and later on the temple. Verse 5. He serves these people down here serve the copy and the shadow of the heavenly things, as Moses was divinely instructed when he was about to make the tabernacle. For he said, see that you make all things according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. So when Moses got from the angels, who got it from God, exactly how that tabernacle was to be constructed. And as we study the tabernacle, God gets right down to the fabric, right down to the centimeter, right down to every exquisite detail of that tabernacle, exactly what he wanted made. How many of you ever made a pattern, and from that pattern made something like a dress or a painting or something like that? Okay? That pattern needs to be pretty exact, right? Especially if you're making the pattern for somebody else to execute. Now, if you're doing it yourself, you might just kind of give yourself a sketch because you'll fill it in as you go along. But you're doing a pattern that someone else has to follow. How about a blueprint for a house? The blueprints for this house. This place was a mess, and we had to pretty much demolish it and start over again back in 1989. And I, as an English major and an art minor history major, had to learn about blueprints, how to read them. And I didn't care about blueprints from an engineering point of view, but I sure cared about this house. And I learned, and really learned to follow, and to go to the ultimate engineer. And the blueprints had to be exact in order for this place to be built the way it is. And so it is with your house or any pattern that you have. The pattern that Moses had to make here on earth, the tabernacle, had to be an exact replica of what is in heaven. So when you go through those verses in Exodus and you're thinking, oh, boring, and so many centimeters, or you go on into the making of Solomon's temple, or soon on a Thursday night in Ezekiel, we are going to get into the millennial temple, wherein Jesus Christ will rule and reign in Jerusalem during the millennium. And you're thinking, boring, so many meters, so many. It's going to be the house of God.